When do you want me to start?
We can ring them anytime.
Give them a couple minutes or?
Yeah, well, so it won't take long. Maybe 2 presentations. It won't take, you can wait, and let them gab for a while.
Okay.
Let them gab for about. Whatever, yeah.
Okay. Please give me like a hand signal, like.
What I do to Kent, okay. I jump up and down, jumping jacks. Yep, gotcha.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, happy Halloween. I know we are pulling an elaborate trick on anybody day. Not Kent, dressed as a much younger, handsomer, fitter person. He's not able to be here today. We thought you could use a real treat, so he asked me for the meeting today. I promise we'll go back, but we'll start with the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's remain standing and acknowledge anyone in the Rotary family that we should keep in our thoughts. Sorry. We're being passed away. Okay, let's take a moment. Thank you. You see this. All right. We have a couple of guests today. We got the mic. Dean Phillips as a guest.
Very pleased to have my guest here today and meet all of you. Please be kind to the prospect and everything. Same.
And Tom Walsh as a guest today.
Well, 2 partners.
Dr. Will Hard is the director of Resource Management
Program.
Okay, man, so we just brought it up over 1,500 bikes. Yeah. This last 2 weeks. So, anyway, welcome.
You're up. Take us away. We'll try to make the keyboard simple. Mark has a few comments he would like to make on the Eagle Club and survey parking lot.
As you see on the table is a questionnaire, a survey is used. Anyway, my name is Park Little. I've been a member here since 2021. However, since 1998, since 1978, I've been Rotarian. And so with that experience that I became assistant governor for this club of other clubs. Our board has approved adding an evening meeting to our club. Our district leadership thinks the only way this club will maintain its membership is to try this. Repeat that. The only way this club to maintain its membership, 162, is to try meeting satellite meeting. Think one club, 2 meeting times. Basically, here at ISU campus and extension and so forth, there are many that cannot attend a lunch meeting. I asked 2 things in this questionnaire. One is think of candidates who fit this category. I remind you that ISU has over 6,000 employees. Think Huxley, Story City, neighboring communities. The second thing I ask is that you consider being a mentor. Very low investment, maybe a quarter of the year, you show up, you help them. I bring up Boone's example. Their total membership is 62. They have 5 volunteers from the noon club to mentor the evening club. And now that evening club is bigger than the noon club. That's all, folks. Answer the question.
Thank you, Mark. In keeping with our president's format, he usually likes to have an on this day or some information. So some fun facts about Halloween to get us started here. And I did not fact check this. So this is like a 2-minute Google search. So just bear with me. It says the holiday actually dates back more than 2,000 years. And it started as a pre-Christian Celtic festival called Samhain, which means summer's end. It's held around the 1st of November. But these recognize the last day of fall harvest and spirits crossing over, since they believe the veil between the living and the spirit world grew thinnest at that time. People in Ireland, the UK, and northern France used to ward off ghosts by lighting sacrificial bonfires, and you guessed it, wearing costumes to trick the spirits. Now this one kind of struck me. Candy corn, does anybody know what it originally was called? If you actually eat this, it's called chicken feet. They must have had a focus group and decided they needed to change it to something a little more appetizing. So the Galis Confectionery Company originally sold the polarizing treat in boxes with a rooster on the front in order to appeal to America's agricultural roots. This is according to National Geographic. And the sugary recipe has been largely unchanged since the 1880s. Okay, the last one. Does anybody see the movie Halloween or see the mask that Michael Myers wears? Does anybody know who that is? based off of William Shatner as Captain Kirk in Star Trek. So next time you see that, whenever you get that picture in your face, that was Captain Kirk. So, all right. I've got one fun joke here to start with. Hopefully this gets some laughs. Why do ghosts like to ride in elevators? Because it raises their spirits. Kid friendly. All right.
Yeah.
All right, so our program today, if you want to throw that up, we have community grant presentations from One Heart Equestrian. Start us off with them. Give us a synopsis on One Heart and what's been going on.
Thank you, Mason. It's my pleasure to be here today. I'm not a horsey person. I've never been a horsey person, but I do have a soft spot in my heart for our grant that we most recently received. But before I do that, I want to talk a little bit about Executive Director Chris Lager. Chris was the one who was supposed to be here today to speak to you, but unfortunately she's recovering from complications. Has been the main of what it is today. Person. She grew up having horses, unlike me, that I had to learn what the word tack meant. You kept talking about tack in board meetings, and I'm like, I don't know what tack is. Saddles, reins, basically all the equipment that's needed is on the horses. But Chris obviously knew all that, growing up, showing horses and riding. But as a special needs mom, she saw that there was a need for the type of services that One Heart provides. And that's really an opportunity for those with this intellectual and just about any type of disability, an opportunity for them to so we have a number of different that are offered from writing. Some of our participants that are unable to maintain balance in a carriage or actually drive the horses. And these kids, I call them kids, but we also have adults that are doing this program. They actually do control the horses. It takes a lot of volunteers. For each rider that is up, it takes a minimum of volunteers to make sure it has control and has the stability to stay on the horse. But the amazing thing is that this program has done just an exorbitant amount for these was on a horse, and they took the girl off the horse, put her back in her, and the horse has all these volunteers around them. Just immediately went to the girl in the wheelchair to give her a kiss. I mean, it was just amazing. And there have been other stories of progress versus being nonverbal at all. Oftentimes, with some of these kids, they will communicate when they're on the horse. But we do service other groups. We've also had some veterans. Yes, sir. Veterans as well as law enforcement officers that serve that have some people. But the thing that this whole program has all come about was because of Chris. This is the one that has done it from bare bones, started out at the Story County Fairgrounds with and over the years, they went to several different stables, including Stagecoach here in town. But in facility out on 190th Street. And this facility through many for it full, we do not have this that we do have to pay occasionally, sure, including Chris. And for this health issue, she was looking to retire, and that was something else that I felt like I could help her with. Is let's get a succession plan in place so that way we can look to hire a full-time executive director who can do this community outreach. To the most recently, the grant that we received from Rotary doorbell, mounted outdoor lights, smoke detectors, and fire extinguisher. Since we received that grant, all of that equipment has been, all of the safety equipment has been installed. However, we haven't mounted the system yet. It was something we were doing just before Chris's illness, and we're hoping to have that completed before the end of the year. So we are truly grateful for that. But also at One Heart, we received a grant, I believe it was in 2020, and that was for the sand that is used in the arena. And that it was washed and treated sand along with a special treatment on top of. I was there for the Special Olympics this last month when we hosted the Special Olympics. Some competing, there was quite a bit of activity, and there was literally no dust in the air. And that's really significant, not only to the riders, the participants, but I'm sure also the horses appreciated that, but also the equipment, oftentimes with the wheelchairs. It helps in keeping down on the maintenance of even the. So on behalf of One Heart, I do want to thank you for contribution, and I know that it's probably fairly modest and very specific of what.
Thank you.
There's a clicker.
Next, I'd like to invite to the stage Jody Summer, President and CEO of Equestrian.
Excuse me. Been a while since I had an opportunity to talk to you, so I'm grateful to be up here today. I'm also very grateful for the continued support that you give our organization, as well as our clients and my staff. It truly takes a community, all of us, to really be able to help the people who space and to be able to once again become contributing members to our community. I do have a few slides that I'm going to share with you. We'll see if the little clicker works for me. And I just want to talk a bit about some of our numbers and what we've been seeing lately. That is a question that I do get a lot, but there is more to this than numbers. To share that with you as well. So this is taken from our FY22 annual report. My apologies if you cannot read it, but you will see the very first bar there. I'm going to take this to the note. It's all mine. And the number of individuals we served last fiscal year. And that number, unfortunately, is not. And folks asked me last year, well, COVID is over. What's going on here? And I call last year COVID fall. Because what was happening is people's leases weren't getting renewed. They may have had a little bit of money in their savings. Maybe they had a generosity of a church that allowed them to stay in the motel for a while. Then that ran out. Come last year, July 1st, we've seen numbers like never before. Do not need to repeat. So what we are doing is working. We're not just doing a Band-Aid solution. We are getting them housed, and they are once again then able to be stably housed on their own and be a part of the community that they love so much, as we all do. So they did not have to come. So what diversion services is, when people get a hold of us and say, hey, you know, I don't have any place to live. You know, we got to be out in a week. So success with the individuals that are calling for support. Because if there's an option for bringing, we want to do the best for that contacts us. We don't do a Band-Aid, okay. Or as different as night and day. No one's experience with homelessness is the same. So what we find out from that, do they have other support systems that need? And then once you get your feedback under you, you know, we can help you get an apartment. Would love to do that, but they can't get down there. So what we will do is a form of call the brother always call the brother and confirm. So and so here, they have shared with us that, you know, you have a place for them to come, you're willing to. Is this something that you are really committed to doing? If the brother says yes, you say, okay. It's time tonight and they'll be arriving. So that's one example of how to get somewhere where they do have. That happens frequently, or another relative. And so what oftentimes we can do. Is that really what's kind of the tipping point? Their grocery bill anymore? Yeah, well, could we talk to grandma? Sure. And so staff will talk to grandma and say, so if we could give you, let's say your granddaughter can go take and my grandma will usually say yes, because grandma doesn't street. And then what that allows my staff to do is in a week's time. So those are just some different ways are either on the verge of being homeless or maybe homeless. Staff has gone so far as to kind of be family reuniters in some cases of saying, okay, can we all just sit down? Let's talk through this. Nobody really wants this to happen. Street. Looking at who we served last year. So unfortunately, increased by 118%. That is not a number we are proud of. But it is important for us to be honest about that number, so everyone realizes the breadth of the problem we're facing in our community. Of all those thousands of people we helped, we still had to turn away 600. The worst thing I've ever had to do in my life is with the bridge home. Someone was knocking at the door and I went to answer it, and it was freezing cold winter. Shoes, not dressed for the winter at all. Beard was freezing, had some frozen stuff on his eyebrows. Outside for 3 days now, and I just don't know if I can get through another night out there. We were full. I'm sorry, we can't help you. And so to below zero weather. I shut the door and I sat down on the floor and I cried. Nobody should ever have to say that to a person and no. But unfortunately, we have 17 beds, serve 5 counties. Horry County. That is it. Other than that, we have to use motel. In our community who need. So we share that so that the community can understand out here and how this really does take a community to do. No street in the winter, no one. The next number. 213% increase. And then this next one, when I started looking at your numbers, 108% increase, this one really hit me in clients who are 62 years and older. Last year, we've never seen something like that before. We've worked with people 60. And, you know, a lot of this is to what COVID has done to the economy, what people cannot live on Social Security. 31% increase. Another one that's not real. Children served. Our biggest demographic that we work with children 18 and younger. I share that statistic, people always go, why, how? Because the families in our community struggle. I'm sure you all know what it costs for just and you're making $15 to $17, and you need a 3-bedroom apartment. Okay, do we buy medicine or do we buy groceries? Do we fix the car so I can get to work, or do we pay rent? And that's why we're seeing so many things. One thing I found when I started here is there's a very big misconception of experiences homelessness. I've talked with this group before and I did my little activity, but I know most people when they while those people do experience homeless as well, that's not who we work with here. We had a 31% just in client for shelter. When I started, that number was right around 630. Last year was 955. 72% come. They're not living under a bridge, not living in a tent. They may be in a house that has no power or water. They may be in, and this, they live in storage units. So that's where most of the folks are coming from. Someplace that people just can't live, not necessarily that bridge. 43% reported suffering from mental illness. Which unfortunately, that's something is increasing as well as our biggest clients are women and families with children. Those of you that have been around a while know. So we have 11 beds for single men, 6 beds for women, 2 families, and no women. 17% of our clients are also physically disabled. So when they come to us, what changes? How do we know what we are doing is working? %63% went into, when they left us, they were leaving into housing, going into a positive housing situation. Not that they were going to be able to be there for 3 months. do we know that? Because our caseworkers, even when they get housed, to make sure that they're gonna be okay, to make sure if they encounter any other kind, so that they can remain housed. Some phone calls for help. So, that's a lot. That does. Site fillable form. We had over 1,300 hours of volunteer time. That's one thing that happened this year. Helping with some projects that needed to be done. We have a group of volunteers that come in and any of our shelter clients can come in and you sits down, eats, talks. We'll have children there that are the pumpkin colorings that our volunteers get to interact with. Wow, these are just people. These aren't bad people. These are just people. The next two numbers. So these are the national. For every individual that is home for 1 year, it costs the community $40,000. In the 5-county region we serve, there are more than 700 individuals. 75% of that 700 is here in Story County. So that is costing us as a community a lot. Where do those costs come from? And I know if you know anyone at Mary Greeley, they are constantly overrun. And it's not just emergency. Someone was out on the street in the middle of if you're a family experiencing homelessness, your kid's got a fever of 103, where are you going to go? Emergency. That's the only place you can go get help. So the emergency room is also getting used as a walk-in clinic because they have no other options. People will call, hey, there's somebody sleeping out. Option is jail. Usually not us, because we're full all the time. So there's another drain on services and not a solution. Homelessness is. And so that's where some of those costs come into. So what's the answer to that? Because it costs us $1,000 a year to keep someone housed. That's a big savings to our community. And some of these folks, especially the been homeless for a year or more, they've been in and out of homelessness for 2 years. They are not going to be able to be safe. Since why? You saw my mental health numbers. That's a huge, huge. Why people aren't housed is because they cannot get help. So they end up back out on the street. When they're in our housing programs, that doesn't happen. And another thing we like to share is our board of directors, some of whom are Rotary members. And I could not have any better luck. I look over at John because he's one of them, but several years have allowed us so that we can have the impact that you're seeing. And I said I talk about the numbers, but the real thing here is the people. And I always like to finish with, because when you think of the issue of homelessness, and this is whether you see it or not, come spend a day. But it's people. It's not those people. It's people. They might sit next to you in church, might be checking you out at Target, they might mow your lawn, or if it's so we had a mother and 2 children come to us this winter. They were escaping domestic violence from the husband. And so they spent last winter in their car. And if you get our newsletter or ever go on our when we talked to her, and so we turned it off and crawled under a bus to stay warm through the night. And that makes your heart go, whoa. But then you know what she said next? She said, but at least we will. Other people have it a lot worse. She's supporting her boys, and they are happy. And it's just the greatest thing in the world to see. And they have the light back in their eyes. That's our people, and that's who we work with. And so I want to thank you. Year. So what you allowed us to do was purchase mattresses. So we, in an effort to try to help. So we went in, we remodeled that so it could be used as an over. And just help the people out there that are unfortunately getting. As part of that, we needed beds. And you can't just get old donated beds and mattresses and put them in a shelter. And what you were able to provide us with was the, put that back on. Karen, I guess.
Okay.
Okay. You might have to click on that.
I don't see the people.
Well, they're in the slideshow. If you click on, yeah. Or click on the arrows.
I don't see pictures.
Okay, they're in there. So, well, I'll send, here, we can send that out so everybody can see. But you allowed us to, we 17 additional beds in there now. And what you allowed us to do with your gym for those 17 beds and linen. Comfortable place to stay. Those mattresses, just twin mattress, $187 a piece. So it's not something that is not very, very, very gratefully appreciated what all of you have done. We are hoping to have this open soon. We have the remodel done. That and we've also received some other projects along with a wheelchair accessible ramp, which is something we've never had before. Where we're at right now is facility, because it's its own facility. So what we need to be open is 2 staff. And that would allow us to be open from, let's say, 6 o'clock at night till 2-ish, or wherever the 8 hours are, and then from 2 until another 8 hours is over. And then the folks leave and 7 days a week. The minimum we need is 3 workers. So we would have a worker on the weekend, and they work from 4:30 in the afternoon until 8:30. So that's where we're at right now. And we have had a church step a very sizable donation to help us with that staffing. And we really, really are working. So stay on the street this year. Just, and we can't put them in motels either. That allowed us to do that. So thank you very much. I'm happy. And thank you all. Thank you all very much. We can't do this. What do people not work with all the jobs that are open? And it's a valid question. Yeah, so if somebody comes to us and they're not working, just go get a job. Well, yeah, you have to have an address. Do you even be able to apply for a job? So I have to get them a birth certificate. Birth certificates aren't free in Iowa. It's also not an easy process if you have never done. So they have to get a birth certificate. So that's something when I started here just kind of made me go, wow, I never thought of it. Yeah, just go get a job. So that's why they can't just go and get those jobs that will. Believe you me, once we get in their ID, they get the jobs and we help them. But that's a question I get a lot lately. Well, if you have any, please catch me afterward.
Thank you, Kevin and Jody, for providing an update on those 2 fine organizations and really moderating what is core value of service of so. Yeah, it's that statement you made with that mother with the 2 children saying that she sleeping in a car through the wintertime was she was blessed enough to have what she had. Blessings, something like that is really kind of lands. And join us again next week. We'll have at the IAC Alumni Center here, we'll have representatives from Story County Drug Task Force to discuss. Vince Jr., Deputy Jamie Schmeltz, and Sergeant Nicholas Hochberger here, along with the community grant recipient Patty Yoder. Surveys in front of you, and if you received any in your inbox. And with that, we will please stand and join me as we recite the quarterly test. The things we think, say, and do. Thank you.